This podcast contains potentially adult language, adult themes, definitely drinking, and possibly sexual context. Listener discretion is advised. Welcome to Drinking with Authors, the Literary Briefs edition. I am your host, Erica Lance. My co-host today, who totally messed it up at the end of the last one, is Valerie Willis. Do not even start. You're about to do it again. And our guest today is Gregg Schigiel. Woo! This is exciting. Let's talk about what we're drinking. I'm drinking out of my Drinking with Authors swag. Greg, you're going to get some of this from being on the podcast. The swag, not the wine. So I'm finishing up the last of my
share liquor.
That is not accurate. I get you drunk every time I see you.
It only takes a cup. It's not much.
I know. It's the best kind of friends to share your liquor with, the ones that get drunk easy. Okay, so I am drinking today. You know what? I actually totally forgot. This is what happens when you drink in the previous
You're
episode.
gonna like and comment, please, and share and tell the world about us at Drinking with Authors. We're on Spotify, Apple. I don't know what you're listening to this chaos from, but please make sure people know that we are there and that you like us.
Hit like or subscribe. Thank you for that entire. I don't even know what the fuck that just was, but I'm letting it go just for the record.
I'm trying, man.
Yeah, you are. It's painful. Leave us a review. We would love that. Our sponsors today is Skunk Brothers Spirits, coupon code DWA10, and you can get their amazingness. So what I'm drinking is my favorite Riesling. As you can see now, I'm out because I've poured it all in the cup. It's 70% organic. They say this when I purchase this, it's on the pricing tag. I don't understand it, but it's funny. It's called Pacific Rim, and it's got a dragon on it. So it's pretty awesome and makes nerd references. Val, what are you drinking?
I'm drinking.
I'm drinking
Rancho La Gloria, handcrafted, ready to drink margarita wine, cocktail strawberry, 100% de guava wine, real lime juice and natural flavors at 13.9% alcohol volume. And I'm almost to the bottom of my mug that says, why am I not in bed?
We understand it. Greg, describe what you're drinking because it's ridiculous.
Yeah,
we thought you're ridiculous. That is ridiculous. So
I am not a booze drinker, but in honor of the spirit of the show, I'm drinking a Cuban soda called Iron Beer, which in Cuba would be pronounced Iromber, and it's a very fruity, nothing organic or natural about it. It's like a fruity cream soda kind of a thing, and I enjoy it. I enjoyed it as a kid, and I enjoy it now.
That is awesome. I don't drink this because it's 70% organic. I am actually a red wine drinker. Generally, it's very weird. But I like my white wine to have a little bit of sweetness to it, but not too much. And I managed to find this. I just thought it was funny when I saw it, because normally it's labeled organic. It's not like a percentage of organic. It's just organic. And this literally on the label says 70% organic. So I'm like, is the rest of it like plastic chips or something?
Yeah. What is the other? What is the other 30%?
Yeah. Like, is it, what part of this is not organic? Okay. So Greg, this is rapid fire, which let's see how well we do with that with the
because we're sober and we are not.
Well, for what it's worth, I've listened to several episodes of the literary briefs, and I can tell you right now, I'm going to have trouble narrowing down to one for a lot of these. If it's the same questions, we'll find out.
Okay. It doesn't, it's your podcast. It doesn't matter what you answer. We could stick with one question and just go the whole entire time. It's fine.
No, we'll go rapid fire.
Yeah. I'd say rapid fire, like I made that up a long time ago, and it's never, except for when there's a guy named Bill Fawcett who was like, what's the next one? And I was like, oh dear God, what is happening?
He was rapid firing questioning then.
Yeah, it was bad. It was very
great.
bad. Okay.
It was wonderful.
So what is your
so I got to just enjoy that.
Very true. What is your favorite book of all time? And then I have a follow-up of what is your favorite comic book of all time?
My favorite book of all time is my standard answer is Alice in Wonderland.
I love Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah.
Notice the poster in the background.
Yeah, you can't
Yeah.
see it, but there's an entire wall of Alice in Wonderland stuff here on this
Oh, is it?
side. Yeah, my boyfriend says it cannot climb out of your office. That's how much of it is. He's like, it's not allowed to leave your office.
But my other favorite book that is maybe going to overtake Alice is The Monster at the End of This Book, which is a golden book starring Grover.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
And
Yes.
it's really one of the great books of all time. And it kind of bridges the gap because it's also, in a lot of ways, a comic. It's sequential. There's word balloons. There's sound effects. So
He's
that's
cooking
going to
and
be
cooking.
going to be my bridge book. The Monster at the End of This
Okay.
Book is almost perfect. It's a great read aloud as well.
Husband
And
does
then
her voice. It's great.
favorite comic book, that's tough because there's so many. As a kid, I loved Power Pack, which was a superhero team of 4 siblings.
Okay.
And then there was a run on Detective Comics written by Mike Barr and drawn by Alan Davis that really stuck with me as a kid. As an adult, there's a graphic novel called Why I Hate Saturn by Kyle Baker that's incredible. So I'm going to go with those 3, and I'm sure there's so much stuff I'm neglecting, but
Okay. As a ridiculous Alice in Wonderland fan of the original book, Disney, fine, you did movies, but they do not really kind of encapsulate the book because Wonderland is a fucking insane place. So why do you like Alice in Wonderland?
so I read Alice in Wonderland for the first time. It was assigned in school in 10th grade. And I'm sure I'd seen the Disney cartoon prior to that. But reading the book, I read it in one night. I'd never read a book that quickly. And what struck me about it was the complete insanity of it. And the reaction so many people have is like, that guy was on drugs. That guy was on drugs. But there is also, it reads like a dream.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the few things that it was all a dream and it works. Because usually it was all a dream for me ruins something. But with Alice in Wonderland and The Wizard of Oz to a certain degree, but Alice in Wonderland especially, the way it's written, the scene transitions make no sense. It is so rationally dreamlike that it's incredible. The ideas are totally off the wall. The nonsense is lovely. Like the way it is written, the words are lovely to read. There's a sing-songiness to it. And then it's so out there, but it's still kind of grounded. Like her experiences are real. Like there's something to hold on to as you're reading it, despite everything around it being completely insane. So yeah, it struck me in a way that I didn't expect. Like I remember going to the teacher the next day. I'm like, I read the whole book last night. This was great. And then I think for the next 5 years, I read it once a year, just to sort of re-engage that thing. So yeah, I think it's all those things.
Very cool. What about your least favorite
Book?
Yeah.
The one that I think of is a book I tried to read and I couldn't. I don't think I got 10 pages where I was just like, this is I can't read this. It's The Naked Lunch.
Oh, yes. No.
I tried reading it and I was just like, I feel like somebody wrote a book and then cut up all the pages in thirds and then stapled them, like taped them together. And none of it made, speaking of being able to like be grounded in something, I was lost from the first sentence and I just couldn't. It might be great. I don't know. It's not for me.
Yeah.
I'll say
Not
that.
for you. What about a comic book that you're like, nah?
That one's harder. I know there are some. And those are all blanking out of my brain. I mean, there's some comics that my friends and I used to call them sad diner comics, where it's just like with all due respect to the people that were making them, but they're usually independently published in the 90s, and it was just like a guy complaining about his life and like drawing comics about how sad his life was and pining after somebody. Those got boring fast. I don't know if they're the worst, but they got boring very fast. And then there's certain comics that people really like that I just can't. They don't do anything for me. They make. See, this is going to get me in trouble because I'm going to name writers that people love so much.
trust me, I have, if anybody has named writers that people quote unquote love so much and been like, they're fucking, let me start with my hatred of Jane Austen and I can just go from there. Okay.
All right.
So,
With apologies to everybody, who is a fan, there are very few Grant Morrison comics that don't baffle me after the first half of reading them. And there are some that I can't get from jump, like 3 pages in, I don't know what's happening. And then I see people talk about them and how brilliant they are, and it just makes me feel very stupid. And I know I'm not stupid.
yeah.
Not your cup of tea.
It's just not for me. That's what I've taken in the past 5 or so years to saying something is not for me, as opposed to saying it's bad.
No,
Right.
and that's what I'm saying. It's what you don't like.
Yeah.
Like, here's the thing. There are a billion Jane Austen fans out there. I'm going to say a billion. It's probably upwards of the millions, really, legitimately, right?
Yeah.
But I do not like him. I do not like Regency romance fucking stories. Like, that's my thing. But I'm not saying it's bad. There are Jane Austen. Whoever's listening, love what you love, read what you want to read. There's a fan for everything out there. I say that all the time.
Yes.
I'm asking Gregg what he doesn't like.
Yeah, I find metaphysical very difficult to reckon with in comics. Like
Yeah.
I
Okay.
just, yeah, from whether it was the Invisibles back in the 90s to more recent stuff, though, although, yeah, Invisibles was Grant. Yeah, it's a different wavelength. And some of the stuff I've read starts out really good, and then by like Flex Mentallo and Sea Guy, they start out great. There's so many cool ideas, and then I get lost. I forget like I can't follow issue to issue what's going on.
Well, that
Okay.
brings me to my next question is, as a reader, what is your pet peeve? What will turn you off on a book immediately when you see it? And stuff like that. Like, for me, I like purple prose and just going on and on about describing the background for too long. I can't. I'm more character driven.
Yeah, okay, so this has become one of my jokes, but it there's something to it. If a book has a map, like if you open it and there's a map, it's already putting me off a little bit, because it's telling me, like, do your homework before you start reading. And I just want to read.
That's
like,
so funny, because most fantasy books, for the record, including Val's fantasy series, have maps. Mainly because when you're describing the world, it's a world you've created.
yes.
And people go, wait, where are we? You know what I mean? Like, what
I'm
is
talking
this
about
thing?
them going south or east and going
Absolutely.
to
I understand. I mean, look, Winnie the Pooh has a map, and I like Winnie the Pooh. But there's something about the map out of the gate that at least it puts me in a state of, am I gonna have to refer to this? Like, it creates a state in my mind of, this isn't going to be easy. Like, there's so much world building already before we've even started. I don't even know what this book is about. I just know that there are a lot of different places, and I feel like I'm gonna have to keep going back and forth to keep up with
we'll have Gandalf to lead you.
yeah. Like, I read, I guess it was 2 years ago, I read Tristan Strong Punches a Hole in the Sky, I think is the title of it. And that had a map, and I think I was reading it as an ebook, so you couldn't get to the map fast enough.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I'm just gonna, wherever they say I am, that's where I am, and so be it.
I like it. I like it. Okay, what do you think they did a book? Oh my gosh, words. A good. They took a book and they did a great TV or mini series, like a movie or mini series.
My go-to answer is The Wizard of Oz, because I find the book The Wizard of Oz to be pretty dull and unfun, and I think the movie is great. And then Election was a great movie based on a great book.
Okay.
And all the Roald Dahl stuff seems to translate really well, except for Tim Burton's Wonka. Don't like that.
Really?
Yeah. And I liked Invincible. The Amazon series based on the comic series Invincible is great.
Very cool. Very cool. Where do you think they did just a terrible job? It's something that you love and you go, oh my God, they really should never have done that.
that Tim Burton Wonka is not. I do not like that movie, and I've never seen the Tim Burton Alice because I just don't even want to go there. Like I'm put off.
See, I absolutely love the Tim Burton versions of
Really?
Alice as an Alice fan. I did because, and it's true with the Wonka too. Like I love the original. You can't, it's Gene Wilder. Like you
Yeah.
can't, it's Gene Wilder. The thing I liked about the other version is I felt like it made it a little more around Wonka being a little crazy. He's very crazy, like that character, and not in a cute, cozy kind of, like he is
Scary.
nuts. And I felt like Tim Burton encompasses nuts a little bit better than the Gene Wilder version of it. With the Alice in Wonderland, as one of those people that can look at the Disney thing and go, well, that's cute. He did the crazy part, like where it's a little more nuts and it's a little less pleasant. And the like off with your head is not like this cute little thing. Like the Queen of Hearts is an unpleasant person to be around.
I mean, I do love the Disney Alice. I will say I'm on the side of loving that version. I think I hear what you're saying about Tim Burton's Wonka versus the Gene Wilder one. I think Wilder's Wonka has a manicness to him. It's a calm manic. There's menace to him. Whereas I felt like Johnny Depp's Wonka was just like creepy, uncomfortable. Like not manic, weird, crazy, but just creepy.
Canon.
Like this guy's fucked up. You know what I mean? Like you don't want your kids anywhere near this guy.
True.
Whereas Gene Wilder, there's this illusion of like, oh, this guy's playful and fun, and one by one these kids are dropping out, and he does not care.
No.
Like Gene Wilder's Wonka does not. He is so flippant about these kids just dropping out, and there's something delightful about that. And I think the Oompa Loompas are more fun in the first movie. I didn't appreciate the Deep Roy replicant Oompa Loompa thing.
That I can understand. I don't know. I it's not like I have a favorite between the two, but I could appreciate the Johnny Depp version. I will say his Mad Hatter was much more, to me, on point than the other Mad Hatters.
Okay.
Because his Mad Hatter, the thing that they brought up was why they're stuck at the tea party, which I don't think a lot of people understood the vicious like loop that they're in and why they're in, because he brings that up in the Looking Glass one, right? And it explains why these guys are all completely, literally crazy at this point in time,
Right.
Because they're reliving the same day over and over again.
I think that might be an inherent difference. Is I've never questioned why they were at. It was just I accept the reality of the world as it's presented to me, and I never wondered why are they at this tea party. It's like they're at a tea party. In the same way that, like, if you tell me Superman's weakness is kryptonite, I'm going to say, okay, thank you. It's just whatever as you present the world to me, especially if it's a fictional fantasy world, those are the rules. And I'm going to try not to apply earthbound logic and rules to it. I'm going to say, you tell me what the rules are. They do tea and they're nuts. You got it. The mouse is in the teapot.
Sir,
Sure
you're
thing.
our favorite kind of reader.
So
I've seen science fiction writers I feel for, because I don't know how they do it, because everyone wants to talk quantum physics and it's like, why can't you just accept that this is an alien nation where things are going crazy and none of it makes any human science sense, because it doesn't have to.
I think that's why I don't particularly love deep fantasy or hard science fiction, because it gets so explainy. And I like fairy tales and mythology and sort of simple, and then you can graft your own stuff onto it, right? Like you could take away from it, you could find your own way in it, as opposed to just I think world building, I appreciate it, but sometimes it can get very heavy and leaden. And I like the Lord of the Rings stuff. It ain't for me.
Oh, wow.
Now
You're going to piss off everybody.
I know. I can't believe I said that out loud.
I can't believe you did either. Like,
I
we're
know.
gonna have to just disown you now.
I know. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, listeners.
You mentioned fairy tales and mythology. So what's your favorite fairy tale and what's your favorite mythology?
As a kid, when I found Norse mythology, I was all about it. There's a book, Dollier's Book of Norse Myths. I used to get that from the library many times, multiple times, and was kind of obsessed with it. Favorite fairy tale, that one's tougher. I do like Red Riding Hood though. Like that's the one that popped
Which
into my
one?
head. What's that?
Which one?
Little Red Riding Hood with the wolf.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I know that, but I mean, which version of the story?
Oh, just the story, just the story in general, like the girl through the woods, shortcut, wolf. Whether it's in a cartoon rendition or the actual original writing one, or how it was done in Into the Woods, like there's something, the beats of it I like. Yeah, I'm gonna go with that one. I'm sure I'll
Okay.
think of another one as soon as we stop recording and go, oh, but Hansel and Gretel.
Everybody always does. I had a couple authors who email me and go, but I thought of this thing, and I'm like, thank you. What the hell am I going to do with that? It's not like I'm going to record a blurb that said, hey, Greg sent me an email and said this. It's like,
Yeah.
that's not
Isabella
happening.
was
Okay.
very upset.
What fantastical or mythical creature would you be?
Would I be?
Like, if you could be anyone, what would you be? I had somebody on the last podcast say a centaur, and I was like, so you can't get any doors? Like, that is a very impractical creature. But anyway, moving on.
Leave him alone. He could be a centaur if he wants. People go right.
Shut up, Val. Nobody's
Would it-
interested in your opinion.
Would a Jedi count?
Oh, yeah. No, I like that.
Yeah, I would do that.
Okay.
Right.
I'm on board with Jedis.
Why?
Well, I'm on board with the other side, not really the Jedis, but yeah.
Well, more just
Why?
somebody who could use the Force.
I would
basically.
use force choke and force push so much. I would have dark side points out the fucking ass. Like, that would just happen. There are so many people in this world that need to be force choked that my dark side points would accumulate through the fucking roof. That's what would happen.
Have it because I think I would have been a victim of this abuse.
She would have been a victim of force choke and force push at many occasions.
I just like, as I remember as a kid, just like recreating the scene on Hoth where he's reaching for the lightsaber and it flies to his hand. I think the telekinesis is the thing that is most appealing to me. I think the mind reading would be tricky. I think the suggestive stuff would be problematic. But just being able to move stuff with your mind and wield the lightsaber and they could fly around and
You're
stuff.
going to end up on the dark side with this force choke thing. If that's a possibility and somebody teaches you how to do it, you'll be around humans and you'll be like, force choke. That'll be it. And then all of a sudden eyes turn red and you're in the dark side. That's how that goes.
Those are the risks we take.
Yes. Yes. I love it. Okay. What about your favorite weird food combination?
All right. So I've heard this question before and I've given this quite a bit of thought.
Oh, I love that we are setting you up for one you've given quite a bit of thought to. Go for it.
So a little bit of backstory. For many years, I invented a holiday called All Hallows Giving. And it is the Saturday between Halloween and Thanksgiving. And I call it a feast of frightening food.
Ooh, I love this idea. This is a great concept.
Thank you. So for this holiday, for many years, I would create a menu that was oftentimes mashups of different types of cuisines, or I would reinterpret a Thanksgiving dinner through Mexican food or Jewish food or Chinese food or what have you. So I'd season the turkey a certain way or prepare, instead of mashed potatoes, I did mashed matzo balls, that sort of thing. So over the course of the years of doing these, I've done some combinations. I'm going to run some of those by you. I don't know which of these is my favorite, but I'm going to throw them all at the...
Oh, I can't. This is riveting.
Awesome.
We haven't had this before. Go for
Okay.
it. Somebody did homework. I like it.
So I once took a recipe for cornbread, and instead of sugar, I melted down candy corn. I made candy cornbread.
This sounds brilliant. I'm a huge fan of candy corn. I shouldn't be, but I'm a ridiculous, especially candy pumpkins.
Those
The
are
candy
good. They're extra
pumpkin corn. I
soft.
love those. Anyway, continue on. I'm loving this so far.
It ended up tasting quite a bit like cornbread because candy corn is just sugar.
Yeah.
I made a mac and cheese once that I called Popeye mac and cheese because it had macaroni and cheese with spinach, olive oil, sweet peas, and a little bit of kelp.
Wow.
And that one
I
was
don't know how I
interesting.
feel
Put the
about that
whole
one, but
cast in there.
continue
I
on.
see that.
I enjoy the name and what you did. I don't know that I'd put it in my face, but continue on.
During the pandemic, I couldn't have people over. So I did a virtual one where the plan was go to 2 different restaurants and mash foods together. So for that one, I did a Chinese scallion pancake with cream cheese and lox on it. And I also took a Taco Bell taco, hard shell taco, and I put Thai papaya salad in it.
I like both of these. Both of these I'm on board with. I'm a huge fan of sour cream, so anything that involves sour cream, I'll at least try it.
Okay.
I like this. Okay, continue.
I invented a cookie called the fish and chips cookie, which is a chocolate chip cookie with chopped up Swedish fish in it.
Oh, I got scared for a hot minute there.
She thought you were gonna put fish and French
Yeah.
fries in the cookie, and then that she was gonna lose it.
Yeah.
I was going to
Anyway.
lose it.
And then
I like this.
And then the last one I have for you is, despite being a grown man in his 40s, I often add Nesquik powder to cereal, and chocolate milk powder in Raisin Bran is better than you think it is.
Interesting.
It's good in Cheerios because the milk becomes chocolate and it's chocolate Cheerios, but Raisin Bran is the closest I've gotten to this idea I think somebody should be producing, which is Raisinette Bran.
Yeah.
Ooh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Because that's exactly because that bran soaks up the liquid so much better than any other cereal does.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking, I'm like, man, that probably tastes like Raisinette.
It's good.
Exactly
It's
what I'm
good.
with.
That's okay. Valerie's gonna try this. I can already tell she's
I'll let
gonna
you
try
know.
that
I'll write
one.
you a letter.
I
Yeah.
love all of these.
It'll be a
These
TikTok.
are good, weird food combinations.
Thank you. I when I heard the question in past episodes, I go, well, I definitely have answers to this one.
He's like, I've got them. Let me just
Got it.
Yeah.
I got it.
This is
We
my
did this.
wheelhouse.
Okay, so here's a weird food thing. I didn't bring it up, but I when I got back, so I went to Iceland, and I'm actually sending this to my son-in-law. So I don't know if you guys know this, but in Iceland, they don't eat chips or like popcorn when they're watching movies. Their thing of choice is dried fish.
Is that lutefisk?
Yeah,
I've heard about lutefisk.
it's dried fish. This is what they eat. Different flavors of dried fish is their like snack. And so this isn't like you have to go find it. It's everywhere. Like you go into a convenience store, you have all the chips and stuff, many weird flavors of chip, by the way. But then you have an entire rack of these in different sizes and different flavors.
And do you have a favorite so far?
No, I'm not trying it. I'm not a fan of dried fish.
She's like, nope.
No, I bought this specifically and I put a little note on it for my son-in-law. I'm sending it to him.
Like,
This is what it is because he likes that sort of thing, but no, ew, no, ew. But I did have the best fish and chips I've ever had in my life from a little stand there that literally said fish and chips, and that is all they served. Just fish and chips. You can get different sauces on the side, but that's it. You can't change anything. It's one size. It comes in a box of fish and chips.
Done and done.
So, done and done. Val, what's your next question, Drunky McDrunkerson? I can tell with your face all being
I
red.
know my face is all red. I'm like, I put the cup way far away. I'm like, no more of you, because I'm gonna need to go to bed after this.
You have to ask a question, weirdo.
Ask a question. Who is your favorite comic book artist?
There's a few. So early on, the first comic book artist whose work I recognized across different titles was a guy named Alan Davis. And for a long time, I wanted to draw like him. John Buscema is probably at the top of the list. He's basically the person who wrote How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way. It says by Stan Lee, but Stan Lee never drew a comic ever.
No. Yes, and there's plenty of documentaries where he makes this very clear. I
Yeah.
even saw like a behind the scenes with him and Jim Lee. He goes, I don't draw this, I just sign it. And he pats Jim Lee on the shoulder. He goes, thank you for drawing it.
Yeah. So John Buscema used to do these workshops of how to draw comics from Marvel, and they turned it into this book. So that stuff for sure is how I construct figures sort of started there. And then there was a guy named Mike Waringo who drew Flash and Robin. He's up there. And then more recently, an artist named Carlos Pacheco, and the guy who drew Invincible for most of its run, Ryan Otley. Like his stuff, just watching him become better and better. And I know him, and he's my age, and seeing how he draws makes me go, my God, what did I do wrong? Like we're the same age. I don't understand. I've been drawing all the time too. Like it's really, I guess, humbling might be the word.
Yeah.
Wow. What about, is there anybody that people ask you to draw that you're like, no?
I don't like drawing Transformers. So
Oh,
I don't love drawing mechanical stuff, buildings, cars, those, and like a Transformer is a car building. Like it's a
or a gun or stupid stuff like that. Yeah.
yeah,
no,
mechanical stuff is less fun. I'd rather draw animals and trees and people, and like made up worlds where I don't have to. I mean, perspective is perspective. It exists, but you know, the simplified shapes are more. They're just more fun to draw
They're
too.
funner. They're more free flowy.
They are funner.
Funner.
I knew a
For that, not a word.
wrong.
I
knew a
know.
Disney
Right, Kyle Baker is
animator.
another great cartoonist. I got to mention him. Kyle
Oh,
Baker's amazing.
So-
I knew a Disney animator, and he said his favorite, like when it came to realistic figure drawing, his favorite were fat people. He says, "Man, you can just." It's just something about just being able to make a bunch of circles and layer them and have fun with them. And I'm like,
I'll tell you, there's something to drawing heavy people that I don't think a lot of people get, is that like there is a skeleton underneath that. Like there's a
Yeah.
way that weight lives on a body that I think people just draw round bodies, and that's not how it works.
Mm-mm.
But again, that's me getting into the weeds of figure construction and
Yes, this podcast will now turn into figure constructed by comic book artists. So I have a question. What is the weirdest animal you've put in the zoo books? Like because you ask people, and I don't know if you've done this, like if you could be any animal, what would you be? And I have friends that have said some of the weirdest shit. And I'm like, no, why would anyone want, they're not like, I'd be a tiger, a fox. They're like, I'd be a pufferfish. Like what, Val picked a ridiculous one. I forget what the hell she picked, but it was some sort of reptile and it was dumb as crap. Like,
I don't even remember.
the weirdest animal I've turned into a superhero is a platypus.
oh, did you make
And
it
my
poisonous?
platypus is my magic character. So my Doctor Strange, Doctor Fate, Zatanna character. And it was between that, a giraffe, and a flamingo. Because I was like, all right, what's a funky looking animal? Like what's an animal that just has a physicality that's odd? The flamingo ended up becoming a different character called the Flaming Ghost, which is sort of a Ghost Rider-y kind of a so. And I just, the second I realized flamingo and flaming ghost.
How many bike weeks we have in Florida, that it was the perfect choice.
Yeah. But once I realized like flamingo and flaming ghost sort of were like laid on top of each other pretty good. It's like, all right, that's a go. So yeah, platypus is like the weirdest animal. And it really is the weirdest animal.
I think, that's why I asked if it was poisonous. A lot of people don't know how poisonous a platypus bite is.
Is it?
It is literally
Yes.
the most painful bite from any animal you can get. Like
I did not know
apparently,
that.
if you get bit and the toxin, it's very much like what's it called? A Komodo dragon, where it's a
Okay.
toxin that they have in their saliva. But
Huh.
apparently you have to just let it go. You can't give a person enough morphine without killing them to get rid of the pain. Now, keep in mind, these cute little creatures do not go around biting a huge amount of people. They have this little like hook thing, right? But if you do get bitten by one, they are one of the most painful bites in the entire animal kingdom. You have that for future episodes of your comics. That if
This
it
is
ever
news,
comes up,
yeah. You could have a spell that's like the bite, and it's just a very dangerous. Well, it's like people don't realize how vicious and dangerous a hippopotamus can be.
Oh.
Oh.
So my kid came upstairs last night and he goes, who would win in a fight, a polar bear or a hippo. And we're like, hippo. And then my mother-in-law's like, no, wait. Is it in the water or out of the water? I'm like, I don't care. It's going to be the hippo. I'm like, I don't think you guys realize how much bigger a hippo is compared to a polar bear, or the fact that the hippo has a reputation of being one of the most dangerous animals in Egypt and other areas in Africa, as well as snapping 15-foot crocodiles in half just because they were angry that day.
There was a show in the early 2000s, either on Animal Planet or the Learning Channel. I can't remember, but the whole show was animals in battle, and they do like.
Yes.
Do you remember this show?
Yes, and they would engineer.
They do like a CG version of these animals in battle, but like the first half of the show would be like comparing their bite strength and their jaw construction and their habitat. I remember one was polar bear versus walrus, and if I remember correctly, walrus won.
Yeah,
because walrus pulls the polar bear down and then is just like has the upper hand. Even though polar bear can be underwater, like walrus is much stronger. Those tusks are out of control.
yeah.
That was a great show.
Yeah, no, for anybody listening right now, YouTube, there is a YouTube video that sums it all up, which is a little baby hippopotamus walking around a bunch of Nile crocodiles. The mom is not like right next to it. It's just close enough. And the crocodiles are all like, don't move, don't move, don't let them see us move. Like you would think they could grab this baby and go in the water and that would be it. It's a tiny little hippo. But these crocodiles are like, nope, not going to touch
crocodiles are badass. Like crocodiles and alligators are no joke.
Yeah, no, I think one of my other favorite videos is not realizing how the giant river otters in the Amazon are so aggressive. Because there's footage that they got National Geographic of 2 leopards seeing them coming down the river and hauling ass. They were like, nope, not fucking with otters. And it's like, holy crap.
Yeah, dolphins also, like a standard porpoise. Those are no joke.
Yeah, no, I think a lot of people don't realize how dangerous certain animals that seem harmless are to things. And I mean,
wild animals are wild animals. We should all just leave them alone.
Yeah. Well, I had a video, I think it was last night that I saw of an alligator running. Like people don't realize alligators can beat a horse at a quarter mile.
Yeah, like
but most videos show them just kind of like walking along super slow as if they have nowhere to be. So this video shows an alligator and it's one in captivity running after somebody that's in the like a zookeeper, and it gets up and it's literally like a 5-second video. It's not very long, but it gets up and it's running at him. And I showed it to my boyfriend who was like, oh my God, what is that? I said, not kidding. This is why they say run zigzag, run, because they run this fast.
I grew up in Miami and we used to take field trips to the Everglades.
I'm sorry for you. Was it a collateral damage that as long as 75% of you came back okay, it was fine?
Well, what was interesting, I have a very clear memory in junior high school of being in the Everglades and seeing an alligator get up and walk slowly, but it's still huge. Like once they get up on all fours, it's like 3 feet up off the ground. This is just, it's a dinosaur just walking across the path. Those things are awesome. Again, from afar, you don't want to dance with them, but
no, I agree completely.
They're not like the alligators in Fantasia dancing with the hippopotamuses.
That combo seems dangerous. Just like, let's not have them team up. I'm good with them not teaming up for things.
But what about for beautiful ballet?
Yeah, no, hard pass on all of that. Don't try to get them in the tutus. They're not going to be on board. Okay, Val,
what?
You get the final question. Don't fuck it up.
Oh man, we talked about so many cool things. When was a time that you got to be on a panel or sit next to or be at a convention next to, like, what was an epic, like, you geeked out as a fan moment?
Oh, I've got one. Okay. So I love Jules Pfeiffer. Jules Pfeiffer he's a cartoonist, a playwright, a screenwriter, just an incredible creative force. And I became a fan of Jules Pfeiffer in the late 90s and just started consuming everything I could of his. And sometime in the 2010s, he was doing a talk at Columbia University. I'm like, oh, I'm going to go see Jules Pfeiffer do this talk. And I'd read his autobiography, or he was talking about his autobiography. I hadn't read it yet. So I go up to Columbia University. I'd never been in that area of the city before, and I was completely lost. I didn't know where this building was. I'm wandering this campus. And as I turn a corner, I see Jules Pfeiffer is looking at the map, and he's talking to a security guard trying to figure out where he's supposed to go. And I say, I think I'm going where you're going. And he says, where are you going? I'm going to see you. So he and I walked together through the campus to get to the room where he was doing his talk. And that was the best, because I got to it was one-on-one time, me and Jules Pfeiffer walking. I got to ask him every question I had about the books of his I'd read and loved. And at one point I asked him, he had written a book called The Man in the Ceiling, which is great. His two middle grade novels, Man in the Ceiling and Barrow of Laughs, A Veil of Tears, are sort of the inspiration for my hybrid format. There's a lot of illustration, and the illustration feeds into the text. And in one of the books, a character leaves and literally is walking off the page. But anyway, I asked him about how he got these books published, like in whatever year it was. Like, how do you get anybody to pay attention to this format you were doing? He says, well, my friend Maurice Sendak talked to his agent. And I go, well, that's cheating. Like if that's your pal, if like, oh, my friend Maurice Sendak, okay, forget it. Like, I appreciate the answer, but this doesn't help me at all. I'm not friends with Maurice Sendak. But that experience was truly lovely. And he is somebody that is just and he's still working. He's like 92, I think, at this point. He's still working. Amazing.
Well, I think that's good. I mean, the fact is as you get older, you can have, I want to retire, but you have to have something you're doing, because if you don't have something you're doing, you're going to die very quickly. You
Well,
just
and
stop.
I met E.L. Konigsberg once. I went to a signing she was doing. She wrote Mixed Up Files of Basil E. Frankenweiler and a book called The View from Saturday, which I loved. And I got to ask, did I ask her or somebody? Either way, I got to meet her, and she was very nice. And she said her favorite book was Secret Garden, which I still have never read.
Good one. Oh, it's a good one. That's one of mine. Like, I'm a big fan of the older literature and classics. So like Alice in Wonderland, I have Winnie the Pooh and Wizard of Oz.
Peter Pan is great.
Peter Pan's so much darker than what people realize.
It's heavy. That book is heavy.
But Secret Garden's the same way. It was like Chronicles of Narnia was a favorite, and then I went to Secret Garden, and then I learned that there was like it has a dark fantasy vibe without a total fantastic fantasy aspect. So it was strange experiencing Chronicles of Narnia and then going into Secret Garden, because I was like, holy crap, like this is a story that could possibly happen in our world. And it is so dark and turning and like you're not sure what is happening. Like, you're just on a journey. It's much like
I have to revisit that one.
So you definitely would probably appreciate it quite a bit.
Yeah.
What's the rest of your story, Greg, that Valerie so rudely interrupted?
No, that was it. I met E.L. Konigsberg, and she was very nice and recommended The Secret Garden. That was
okay. Well, I wasn't sure, because Valerie tends to tell all of her own stories.
Tell all the stories. I have so many stories.
I know you do.
We're storytellers. It's what we do.
Yes, it's very true. Don't feed that, Greg. Don't feed that. Okay, Greg, shameless self-promotion time, please.
Find me on the internet. My name, Gregg, Gregg, last name Schigiel, Schigiel. That name will take you to my website, which is myname.com. That's my name on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I don't really use Facebook very much. That's a mess over there. And then on Amazon, if you search my name or just the word superhero, my superhero universe books will pop up, and there's 4 so far and a coloring book. My Pix graphic novels are at the website I just mentioned, gregschiegel.com. And I've got a YouTube channel where I do a bunch of drawing and talk about the drawing. And I have podcasts I've done. One called Stuff Said about comics. And this, I haven't even mentioned this. This is exclusive to the Literary Briefs.
Ooh.
I do a podcast with another cartoonist, a guy named Chris Giruso, called Cruising Together. And we have watched and discussed every movie Tom Cruise has ever acted in. And it is absurd.
I have no.
It's the silliest thing in the world, and we've seen every movie, and it's very stupid.
Oh, very cool. I enjoy, but that's the hilarity of these things. I enjoy that. Thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you for having me. This has been a delight.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that. Well, guys, you've been listening to Drinking with Authors Literary Briefs Edition. And my cough's going to come at the last moment. I've been your host, Erica Lance. Don't forget you're listening right now. Like and subscribe because you're here. You're already doing it. You might be watching us. Absolutely hit the subscribe button. Plus, now's the time you've been drinking along with us. Leave us a comment. Leave us a review. We want to hear it. We want to hear how wonderful we all are. And that mainly Val needs it to boost her ego. Just kidding. My amazing co-host, who's now drunk again, and I love the color of her pink face.
Hey, look, listen, I didn't eat one snack this time around. I want that to go on record.
It's now on record as. So there's my host, Val Willis, that literally can't even control herself at the last moment. And we will see you guys next time. Bye.